Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to 365 Days of Love and Miracles with the Course in Miracles. My name is Arlene Geres, and I am so glad that you are here. Please remember to listen right until the very end, because we have a special treat for you. And if you enjoyed today's video, please click like and subscribe down below, because this helps others to find us on YouTube. Today's lesson is lesson number 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. I just had a huge problem. I completely did all of today's video. It took me a full half hour to record. When I closed the video, went to listen to it, no sound at all. So here I am, I'm redoing the whole thing. Now I'm tempted. My ego wants me to be mad. My ego wants to tell me that I'm stupid. I should have checked the sound before I started. But because I had just finished this lesson, I stopped and I reminded myself. And I said to God, let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. I was able to come back to center. I was able to accept that there is only one problem. And today's lesson is going to tell us exactly what it is. Let's read all about it. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems, yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he is given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. Let's talk about it. Remember, the ego speaks first and the ego speaks loudest. The ego wants to keep us distracted from accepting that we are one with God and all of creation. So the ego is going to tell us that we have many problems. There are all these problems in the world. There are all these problems in our community. There are all these problems in our personal lives. I have my problems. You have your problems. Don't bother me with yours. I have enough of my own. We think that we are all these individual bodies. This is just busy work on the ego's part, distracting us and keeping us away from God. When we recognize that there actually is only one problem, and the problem is our separation from God, we can go, hey ego, you can take a rest. I'm not going to buy into your insanity. I'm going to come home to God. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to ask God what the problem is, and God is going to tell me both the problem and the solution. Let's keep reading. That is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure is inevitable. Let's talk about it. We may have problems at work. We may have problems with our family. We may have problems with our children. We may have problems with our neighbors. We may have problem with the leader of our country. On and on and on it goes. This is the conversation that most of the people who are not living a spiritual life seem to get caught up in. When I walk my dog in the morning, I often stop and have little chats with the neighbors. They are always talking about the problems. That seems to be the main topic of conversation. Most of it right now is complaining about how our country, Canada, is handling the pandemic. The vaccinations are not happening fast enough. If you're in Mexico, as we are, and you want to fly back to Canada, you're going to have to stay in a quarantine hotel. On and on and on it goes. Our minds are busy places, and if we are not thinking the thoughts of God, This is what happens with our minds. We may think about what happened in the past and the problems that we created or someone else created. We may think that we can find an answer to them, or we might be worried about the problems of the future. In any case, we are not staying in the moment. This is all mind games that the ego plays on us to keep us busy, to keep us distracted, to keep us sick, and to keep us unhappy. Only when we come back to the moment are we going to be able to accurately define the problem with God's help. Once we define it, then God is going to help us find the solution. Only in this moment will we be completely free of problems and at peace. Let's keep reading. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms, and with such varied content that they confront you with an impossible situation. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you have resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unsolved. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem, and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you would accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all, and you would use the means because you recognize the problem. Let's talk about it. Underneath all of our problems is this consistent thought that we are individuals in the world of the ego. We're lonely, we are sad, our life is difficult, we have all these problems. This is always the underlying problem. I invite you to think of a problem that you have had recently where you have thought that somebody did something to you or you did something to somebody else. Or maybe things aren't going well at work. You're wondering if you should quit your job or you should move to a different job. We have all of these things that we think are the problem. Underlying all of them is this consistent thought that we have to figure it out on our own. We might ask other people for advice, but at the end of the day, we alone are going to make that decision. This lesson is reminding us to stop worrying, stop trying to figure it all out, and simply come back to God. Go into prayer and meditation. Ask God to define the problem and ask God to give us the answer. The problem is always that we think we have to figure it out by ourselves. The answer is always getting quiet and asking God to show us the way. When I did this lesson yesterday, I took a problem to God. The problem that I was having at that time is that I had a headache. And I said to God, I think my problem is a headache, but I want you to show me what the real problem is. Do you know what I heard? I heard, you need to rest more. You're working too hard. I have had this problem since I was very young. I was taught as a child that I need to always be busy. It was never said, but the message that I got is that I need to earn my place on this earth. It's not a healthy thought, and I've known that for many years, but I continually struggle with it. It's my default. I just seem to go there. Even though I'm semi-retired and I can make my own hours, there's a million things that I want to do. I just have this incredible desire to do these videos, to share God's love, but they take a lot of work. Each video takes about an hour to set up and complete, then it takes another 3 hours to edit, then it takes another hour to make sure I have it all loaded and get the message on my Facebook page. On and on and on it goes. I love doing all of it, but I have a whole other life. I have a husband, I have friends, I have things I need to do in order to keep this house. I love to sew. If you've wondered where all my clothes are from, I make most of them. That's a whole other little sideline business that I have. If you want to know more about it, just reach out to me. The message I got was, you need to rest more. So I asked God to help me with that, to show me, to give me those reminders, to stop what I'm doing, to take a little break, close my eyes, do a little meditation. This is all built into our practices. It is important that we are consistent with these practices, not just because we want the messages for the day to really sink into us, but because these are healthy habits that help us to be happier and healthier all the way around. Let's keep reading. In our longer practice periods today, we will ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. We will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of all the many different kinds of problems we think we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer. We will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to it, and we will be told. The exercises for today will be successful to this extent to which you do not insist on defining the problem. Perhaps you will not succeed in letting all your preconceived notions go, but that is not necessary. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of your version of what your problems are. You are trying to recognize that you have been given the answer by recognizing the problem, so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and you can be at peace. Let's talk about it. We're going to come back to this in our meditation at the end of today's lesson. But for now, there's a couple of things that I would like to point out. This assures us that we can trust that God is going to give us the answers if we do the exercise as we are asked to, in which we do not try to define the problem. We try to let go of our ideas. We simply relax and we trust that God is going to define the problem and God is going to give us the answer. When we do that, the problem and the answer both will be given to us, and we will know that this answer is from God because we will be at peace with it. Let's finish the reading. The shorter practice periods for today will not be set by time, but by need. You will see many problems today, each one calling for an answer. Our efforts will be directed toward recognizing that there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition, are all problems resolved? In this recognition, there is peace. Be not deceived by the form of problems today. Whenever any difficulty seems to rise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is. If possible, close your eyes for a moment and ask what it is. You will be heard and you will be answered. Let's talk about it. We'll come back to this reading at the end of the lesson when we discuss our shorter practice periods. For now, if you would like to close your eyes for our meditation, let's take a deep breath. As we relax into our meditation, and we think about whatever problem might be in front of us at this time, we bring this problem to God, to our higher power, to our Holy Mother. And we just lay it before them. And we say, I lay this problem at your feet. I ask you to show me what this problem is. What is going on inside of me that wants to be solved? How do you define this problem? We let go of our idea of what the problem is. We surrender it. We accept that we do not know, we do not understand. We ask to see the problem through God's eyes. we just free our minds of our ideas, of what we think is happening, of what we think needs to happen differently. We just let all of that go. We surrender it fully and completely to God. And we recognize that we only have one problem. And God will show us what that is. We wait patiently for the answer, trusting that we will be told what it is. If the answer is not clear to you yet, before we go into the solution, you may want to turn off the meditation and come back for the solution when you are ready. And now we ask you, dear God, to show us the answer. We recognize that you will show us the answer to the extent that we are willing to let go of our definition of the problem. Show us your answer to the problem as you define it. When we surrender our ideas, then God is able to show us where He wants us to go, what He wants us to do, what He wants us to say, and who He wants us to say it to. We can trust God with this problem. We can trust God to show us the solution. And now we ask that you will show us clearly what the solution is, God. We trust that your solution is the only solution. And we sit in our meditation now for as long as we please. If you would like to sit longer, please turn off the video and come back for the closing once you are finished. Our shorter practice periods today are not set by time, so you won't need to schedule them into your phone unless you choose a specific schedule. We are asked today to really pay attention to our thinking. Every single time that we think that there is a problem, whether it's our problem or someone else's problem or something that's going on out there in the world or in the insanity of politics, we simply remind ourselves that there is only one problem and there is only one solution. When we recognize this, we will be given the gift of peace. We want to use today's idea. Let me recognize this problem so that it can be solved. And then we simply sit for a minute or two. If possible, we close our eyes, we go deep within, and we ask God to show us clearly what the problem is and what the solution is. This lesson says that you will be heard and you will be answered. We can trust in it, my friends. Thanks so much for listening right until the end, my friends. If you enjoyed today's video, please share the love. Share these videos with others. Encourage them to start at lesson 1 and only do 1 lesson a day. Are you ready for our special treat? Lolita finds her clan. Oh, look at Lolita. She wants to go join them. Lolita! 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 Let me recognize this problem so that it can be solved. Surrender all your problems to God today, my friends. I love you.